you're out looking at your art, we want to encourage you to come to your galleries. That's just a shot of the gallery space up here, and we have regular rotating exhibitions, and also, you know, get out to your public galleries as well. There's so much beautiful work that's coming in internationally as well as locally, and artist talks, free talks, lots of great avenues to go to, auctions as well as graduate shows. This is a shot of my opening and some friends here looking at my work, but they also belong to an art group. So that's a lovely idea as well. If you're wanting to be part of something, and going to openings is a fantastic way to meet the artist as well. You can talk to them about their inspiration and talk to them about their work. That's my little guy, and I love that, how he's contemplating an artwork, and sometimes it's what we don't like that can actually help us determine what we do like. And also at Parnell, you know, you may like the work of several artists or just one. We can bring the work to you, and Anna and I did that recently. We took some works over to a client, and we had sort of 3 or 4 of mine, big works, round works, different formats, and also there was work there from another gallery. And it's just really important to take it out of the gallery, you know, off the gallery walls and into your own homes to see it in situ. So that's another great thing that we offer here, as well as if you're working to a budget, to think about some payment plans you might like to lay by it. So all of those things, you know, just to encourage you to get out there and have a look. Next one. And just talking about also, this is a work of mine, a paperwork, and we had a client a couple of years ago. He loved a paperwork of mine in the gallery but wanted a large scale canvas. So again, it's about working with the artist, and sometimes you can get a bigger work that perhaps fits a space or smaller, and it's customised and it's quite unique, and I really enjoy working with clients and just getting that special something, and you know, progressively talking with them about what they want and really customising it to their requirements. And then think about your spaces. This is, you know, above the bed. You might want to have a work above the bed in your room so that only you get to see it. Or you might be looking at the living space and having one large work. You might have just one wall that says, right, we need to get something up there. You could be looking at sculpture to take into your interiors. You could be in your living areas, and here they've got 2 or 3 different works and sculpture and a lot of different elements going on. So think about your spaces, and it's quite a good idea if you're out and about looking to actually take, you know, even a photo of the space that you're thinking about putting some art, take some measurements so that you've got something on hand when you're out there looking and just go, right, that looks about right. But also, you know, think about if you've got a photo of it, you might have fixtures. You know, see here, there's a window, there's, you know, there's other elements in the room, architectural elements that might, you know, inhibit where you put the work. We had a lady looking at one of my work that had a heat pump in the way, you know, all those sort of things that you've got PowerPoints or windows like in that image there. And again, I love how they've aligned that and used the window in the composition and just have sort of more of a random, eclectic sort of gallery wall format, which is working quite well. And then just moving on to here, you know, you're looking at your space when you know where you want to hang it. What's the lighting like? Is there adequate lighting in the space? Sometimes we're in a darker area. If we can't, like in the galleries, use recessed or track lights, then think about how you can maybe use portable light to just really get, you know, here it works really well with 2 freestanding lights because it's about bringing the artwork alive. It's really important, I think, to have some light. If you can't change it, then bring in some, you know, portable lighting. And that works quite beautifully, that arrangement, just even to balance out the artwork and looking at the foreground furnishings, how we're tracking our eye in to really focus on that art. It's got pride of place above the mantle there. And yeah, again, that's just talking about the track lights. They've installed them in their home, we can't always do that, but here, you know, with the opposite problem, sometimes not having enough light, sometimes we've got too much light coming in. And here they've used shears quite well just to shield that direct sunlight. And track lights in the house too, which you see more and more, but yeah, it's just some examples there of those. And this example shows a very deliberate setup there with the directional lights as well as the spotlights, and also using a pop of colour there in the chair deliberately just to link in with the painting. So there's some of the extremes that people can go to. It's a recessed wall, particularly just made for the art, so it's interesting looking at that. And just moving on to that format. This is one of mine, and I particularly loved, you know, one large work on one wall, and that idea of colour blocking, as in having a coloured wall behind it. And then, yeah, we've just done this was with my sister, so just focusing on picking up accent colours and just, you know, using that in the furnishings in the front. So it just, again, draws your eye back into the artwork and just pulls out those colours. So it's a good idea to start with your art and then think about the components that are in front of it that can lead our eye back into it. And here with Neil Driver's work, you know, on a smaller wall as well, but just really just sort of peering it back there so that we're focusing on the work, and again using a darker backdrop. I'm all about paint, so I can switch paint colours, and I love to do that. I just pick a wall. I've got a wall in the spare room that, as my husband Roger knows, is a different colour every couple of months with a new artwork on it. But it's just that great fun of experimenting and seeing how can I, you know, really make the artwork pop by using a different colour in the background. And it's the same sort of principle what we're using in the foreground too, to sort of, again, draw our eye into the work. And this is a lovely one, just talking about scale. It's a floor-to-ceiling work, again on a narrow wall, but see how it also mirrors the size of the windows. And they're just exaggerating scale here, using the plant, everything's giving it that height. And also the furnishings are in the soft colours that are reminiscent of the artwork. So again, it's repeating the colour in the foreground. And things like the rug, you know, the rectangular shape of the rug is mirroring the shape of the painting. So sometimes it's almost on a subconscious level that we think, oh, that's something working really well, and it's that whole rhythm of all those components working together. And it's a lovely shot too of art and sculpture and just very pared back. So yeah, next one, Rach. Just talking more about format. This is the gallery wall or saloon style of hanging. And this is a lovely idea if you've got more of a collection of work and you want to do a display of it. The lady on the slide there is templating, so just even if you lay them in front of you and have all the work out and just trace around some paper, hang it on your wall and just get a feel for the size and how it might all work together. It's quite a good technique, so it is a wee bit nerve-wracking just tacking up the nails and hoping for the best. Although, you know, if you're not sure, there are professional people that can help you hang. But we just love that mix and match. You know, there's no right or wrong here, and there's no eye level here. It's just all rules are out the window. But this is a lovely one too, just picking up the colour and interest in the foreground again, and a real mixture. You know, those gallery walls can be old pieces, new pieces, even sculpture. And here it is running up the wall, very tight. So, you know, you may have a big collection to display. Sometimes it's taking it out of where it is at the moment and maybe trying it in a completely different area. It could be a surprise. And again, a more modern shot there of the gallery wall going around a corner. And this is a stylist, Emily Henderson, I think your last name is. This is a Pinterest one, but I thought a great example of that full gallery wall composition, and again, working really well with those pops of colours and, you know, just bringing in the furnishings. A lot of colour, a lot going on there, but interesting, you know. So, you know, there's lots of different ways of looking at it. A friend of mine in Devonport, she had a lot of work and she just wasn't sure how to hang it, and she got a local gallery and they came and she just had all the work in one room, and they ended up doing a lovely gallery wall right along her hallway, all hung at eye level. And she said it was really interesting just seeing someone else come in and see how they would hang. And they took a work that was in her living room and put it into the kitchen. And she said, had I thought of that, the wall was better, you could see it better, the colour worked, and I fell in love with that painting again. So, you know, quite often it's not about buying a new work, but it's reinventing what we've already got. And that's just talking about framing as well. And here, use the coloured mat board idea. So the framing not only protects our work, but it also is a great way again to pull in some colour using coloured mount boards. And I was down with my folks recently, and Mum had a lovely painting, and it was just sitting in the garage, a Rita Blakely, and it's sort of a Linda's Central Otago, and the frame was damaged and the mount board was no good. And I said, oh, let's get this out. So we took it down to a Dunedin gallery, and we wanted to make it a bit bigger, and I thought it would work really well above the bed. So we made the mount board a lot wider, which is the surrounding mount board, and put a white modern frame on it, and it just, you know, completely changed it, because it was going back into a more modern contemporary room, and it just gave it a lift and made it bigger as well. So framing can work quite well, those little tricks, just to, you know, reinvent or revamp an existing work that you might have. And I'll just take a sip of water. Just touching on framing again in glass. And that's a particularly massive work with a huge sheet of glass, but again, it's that just thinking about that directional light. There's nothing more frustrating if you've continually got light on the work that you can't see. I mean, we have it during the day at different times, our work's behind glass, but if it's a problem all the time and ongoing and you can't block it, then think about some reflective glass as an option as well. Oh, there's two lovely girls, look at them. Hanging a Peter Hackett. And we'll just touch on hanging. We can go into it later after the talk, but again, you know, this is Neil Driver's work here, hanging. And sometimes it's a trick, even just to hang. You know, there's the rules of hanging a third of the way down, hanging at eye level, but I'm tall, so eye level is different with everyone. And you may be hanging something above the sofa, so that rule goes out the window as well. So again, it's a rough guide thinking about your space. And also, if you're not sure, again, use professionals, because it's good to get it right. It's not necessary that we have to bang into a stud wall. Sometimes it's just simple things and knowing the techniques. So if anyone wants to talk more about that, we can show you how we do it. There's lovely uniform framing using the same frame and left aligning. So again, it's just another format, just thinking about different ways to hang there. Thanks, Rach. And we did a little experiment at my place. We bought some work. That's a daily mirroring, colourful one. We brought a few works over to my place, some sculpture and a couple of different artists just to play around on the different walls. And this is just deliberately to show you that looking at the bright painting, using a beautiful sculpture in the same blue, but also mirroring the subject matter, and just having a bit of fun, you know, all those small elements and just the subtle play of colour, but again, leading our eye back. And it doesn't have to be the same intensity, it could just be a hue. But again, it's just a little reminder. That's the pink wall. I had a story. I was helping a lady with some paint colours, some colours for her wall, and she had quite a neutral palette. But she answered the door, she had bright red lipstick on, and I thought, oh. And we went up to the second level, and she had a beautiful, bright, sort of pink-red artwork that a friend had done. And I thought, that's interesting. That's obviously a colour that she loves, that she's drawn to. And we discovered later, after doing her palette and soft colours, and we ended up doing, in her entrance, that vibrant pink. And, you know, that was great. As you walk in the door, you see that pink. As you walk up to the second level, you get that beautiful artwork. So when you leave there, you're just thinking about that artwork, and it's that little colour repetition that helps bring us back to the artwork. And this was the cover that Richard Brunton did for House and Garden. So we pulled out an accent colour and just used it in the obviously in the pattern as well as the furnishing. So that's, you know, it's exaggerated there, but it just shows you that, again, I think with the dark wall too, we're drawing our eye back to the work. But it was lovely to start with that, you know, start with the artwork as a colour cue. And then that softer Neil Driver, which I love, and I hope that one stays there, but I think Sally took it away on me. But I loved how that was just beautiful and soft, and works again on mid-tones. And again, we're just having a bit of fun with the subject matter there, but you know, there's nothing distracting there. We're just focusing, and it's quite a serene, you know, serene work. And that's using furniture to really mirror the artwork. So that's a close-up there, and also mirroring it in the colour as well. Just back there, Rach, yeah. Yeah, just, you know, using colour in the foreground is exactly how we're pulling back to the artwork, an abstract one. Sometimes you don't have to have the same colours in the room, but you might have it somewhere else in the house. And I'm particularly, I love that idea of linking, like in the example of the lady with the bright lipstick. And there's a lovely composition of using sculpture and artwork together, just working harmoniously in a softer palette. So basically just have a play around. We're just encouraging you to, you know, look at your own homes and edit them. And again, it's like looking through that camera lens, and even take a photo of your spaces so that you can step back and be objective about what's working and what's not. And this, again, is a large work on a small wall, but just how even the textures mirror quite well with the colour palette there. The texture of the sideboard, there's sculpture there, and it's just a nice little interesting, you know, area, corner. And you could start with something as small as that, just start in one corner. Start on one corner.
And I think, Greer, as well, this is quite a small wall here, but I think be bold in your home. This is a small wall. People often coming into the gallery and they're saying I have a small space, that's too big. But, you know, try it out on your wall, see and a pop of colour.
And you might be surprised, exactly. And that brings us back to what we were saying at the start. Try it in your own space and take some work, you know, from the gallery. The gallery can bring some work to you as well. And you know, you're not committed there, but sometimes it's just great to see different work in your own space, and what you think will work somewhere might not, and may well, you know, work on a smaller wall, like Rachel says, it's just playing around with the scale. That's an example of a large work on a reasonably large wall, but again, it's the colour blocking idea that I was talking about. There's a couple of images of painting the wall behind. There's another one there. And I loved how in the foreground there, they've got the orange-red working against the teal, and it's almost that complementary idea of opposite colours that vibrate really well together. And that's a whole other area, but it's about, you know, just sort of using colour and getting those colour vibrations and creating that rhythm. And there's the softer pink with the gold, again a bit more subtle, but using the colour blocking idea. And again here too, that idea I was just saying earlier about creating a little corner. I love that contrast of the deeper colour on the back wall. And I know they used to do that at the Gallery of New South Wales with Porter's paints that customised special paint colours in each room, so you weren't just going from white room to white room to white room. You'd have lovely deep russet reds with all the old gilded frames and the classics, and, you know, create different areas using, you know, colours on the wall. So again, it can be quite dramatic. It's quite fun to try. What are we up to there? Oh, that's just one of mine, talking about the colour blocking idea. Just going from a white wall to a dark wall, and just seeing that the colours pull out differently. So again, it's just, you know, how you're using colour. You see behind there, quite different to the white wall as it is to a dark wall. You're pulling out different colours and highlighting different colours. So it's just an example of that idea.
Is that the same painting?
It's the same painting, yeah. So you just see different colours when you've got a different background. Yeah, and I like to think that similar to the framing with different mount boards, you know, pulling out different colours.
Would you agree that having different, you know, whether it's different furnishings or, you know, different colours throughout the room, it also brings out different colours in the painting?
Yeah, definitely. A little bit like back earlier when we were just playing around experimenting with Daily Merriam's very bright and putting some brighter, softer, you know, colours in and just, again, drawing your eye in. So if you've got something blue in front of it, immediately you're seeing the blue vase, and yeah, it's that connection, isn't it, with that repetition. And it can be subtle, and this is just, again, when we were playing around with it, had the sculpture there, it's that idea of pulling back and taking a photo, and there's things that I would add and subtract in here, but again, it's just going back to, you know, start with your art, and sometimes that can just be your starting point, and just really pull a colour palette out of, you know, out of an artwork. So I hope to see you get out there in the galleries and just think about, you know, perhaps, you know, purchasing another work or looking at some other artists and just really, you know, talking to your gallerists and finding something unique to you and again, that thing that will endure, that you will love forever. And play around with your interiors. It's even just a fun exercise, and paint some walls. We're around for a while. If anyone has any questions, please ask us. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that.